From the Sierra to the Pacific. Live from California's capital. This is News 10. Reported by Bob Burton and Catherine Kiefer.
Good afternoon. The break in the weather brings a bit of relief, but there are some serious problems from the storms.
Word from News 10 reporters throughout the area. More flooding, more evacuations, more levee breaks. Mark Hedlund has his eye on a crumbling levee near Thornton. He joins us now from Air 10. Mark?
Well, Catherine and Bob, the town of Thornton has basically been waiting for the inevitable all morning. The inevitable being more flooding throughout the entire town of Thornton. Right now, the railroad levee east of town has been holding the water back, but it is expected to go at any minute. Within the past hour or so, we were able to shoot some videotape of various parts of the levee that began to start sloughing off. You can see how large chunks of the levee just started to break away on the west side. That has been occurring in at least a dozen spots along the railroad levee running about 2 miles up from town. It is just unclear which spot is going to go first, but they know the whole thing is going to open up pretty quickly, and that will flood the entire town of Thornton. All morning, reporter Dan Adams has been covering the situation in the town of Thornton, and he has a report.
As floodwaters gushed into the eastern track of Thornton, the only barrier protecting the town was the Western Pacific tracks. But by mid-morning, already several breaches had been reported. The main concern was people.
First thing is get all the people out. We don't know how long it'll take to go on through to the other end, but I think they have some, they're going to try to hold on that side of the tracks as much as they can, I think, to give time.
And they got time. Sheriff's deputies evacuated the few remaining residents, those who refused to go when the town was first evacuated on Monday.
They tried to get us to go out a couple of days ago, but heck, the guys start stealing around here. So we got everything ready, and so it takes a little while for the water to build up anyway.
In addition to people this morning, animals were moved out. And as the threat grew, by late this morning, few were hopeful. Because Interstate 5 is closed already, and because it is elevated above Thornton, many of the people are evacuating there and taking their belongings there. In the meantime, the Highway Patrol and the Sheriff's Department has cordoned off the town. No one is allowed inside. In Thornton, Dan Adams, News 10.
Now, there is one high section of New Hope Road on the east side of the levee, which is already flooded. There are about 7 people stranded there, but we went down and were able to talk to them earlier this morning. They say they're okay. They don't think the water's going to get any higher at that point, so they should be all right. Other than that, the entire town, the entire community in and around Thornton has been evacuated. Last Monday, voluntary evacuations took effect of about 1,500 people. This morning, the last couple dozen people or so that were still left in town were forcibly evacuated. They had to leave. Now the entire town has been evacuated, and Sheriff's Department personnel from San Joaquin County are standing by waiting with OES officials and others to see what's going to happen next.
Thank you, Mark. That's why the National Guard says when it's time to go, go.
Get out by... We are not through with Thornton and its problems yet. We've had a couple of views of it already. Mark Hedlund from Air 10 looking down at some of the levee breaks. Jerome Gray on the people-to-people effort where everybody's helping each other out.
And Dan Adams is also on the beat for News 10. And Dan, they are really having a lot of troubles in Thornton.
They sure are, Jennifer. In fact, the disappointing news that Mark Hedlund reported on just a few moments ago is that the levee that was protecting this town failed about 3:30 this afternoon. What you can see well behind me is the water now approaching Thornton from the north, and it's going to be only a matter of time before the water reaches this small community. The break in the railroad levee just a short time ago marks a disappointing conclusion in the efforts to save Thornton. It was just after 7 o'clock this morning when hopes along the McCullummy River washed away. Water gushed into the eastern track of Thornton, flooding homes, the giant Tri-Valley cannery, and the little creatures whose home is the fields.
We went in to eat breakfast, and they said it went, so we came over here and got everything else out we could.
Check all the houses!
Rescuers ran from home to home to make sure everyone was out, but not everyone wanted to go.
Hey, John, you leaving?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
I'm not leaving yet.
Well, the only trouble is if you leave once, they won't let you back in.
That's the whole damn problem. I don't want to...
Not quite. The rest of the problem was here along the Western Pacific Railroad tracks, which acted as a levee around the main part of Thornton. By noon, large parts of the railroad base were sloughing away, and repair crews backed off.
better get out of here, my friend. This is the only way out.
Despite the deteriorating situation, several San Joaquin County officials, including Supervisor George Barber, whose home is threatened by the flood, converged on Thornton this afternoon with expectations of saving the town.
Well, we're going to try it. That's all we can say. It's worth a try. So we're going to have at it and see what we can do, one way or another. Everybody else is standing around looking at it.
By mid-afternoon, the water level had climbed to the crest of the tracks.
We're going to be trapped, perhaps. We don't know. But we've got to leave now. That's our instruction.
Because of the imminent disaster, even the Sheriff's Department pulled back, and the wait continued. Well, right now, the Sheriff's Department has cordoned off Thornton. Nobody is allowed back inside because the area has been evacuated. What you're seeing right now behind me is Thornton. Better take a good look because this could be one of the last times that we see Thornton above water. Dick and Jennifer?
Wow. All right. I know your own position has been in danger there, and you've had to move a couple of times during the last couple of days, haven't you?
Exactly. In fact, earlier today when that levee was breaking along the railroad tracks, the Sheriff's Department came and told us to leave. They said they were taking off, and basically we were at our own risk out there. Fortunately, it didn't break where we were, but unfortunately it did break later in the day, so Thornton is in very much trouble right now.
It's really heartbreaking to see all these communities going under. The floodwaters in Thornton have gone down, and work is underway now to patch a 150-foot levee break which occurred last Thursday along the McCullum River.
Probably the only person who's been in Thornton more than a resident or a seed salesman is our Dan Adams, who's just back in Stockton now after visiting Thornton again. Dan, I expect things are receding there a bit now too, huh?
Nice town, Dick, but I'm kind of glad to be out of there tonight, to be honest with you. Yeah, you're right. The floodwaters have gone down by about 3 feet, and that today allowed some of the residents who hadn't been home for several days now to get their first up-front view of what's been going on in that town. While some found their homes were spared, for others it was not a happy homecoming. Power is off, there's no gas, and the water is contaminated. No one can stay. But on a case-by-case basis, some Thornton residents today were allowed to get a brief view of their homes.
Flooded good.
Did you get inside at all?
Yes.
What,
Everything's thrown around. I don't know why. It's flooded.
Likewise, the news was not encouraging for the 81 families who live in Thornton's housing project.
It looks like it came up about a foot in here, even though the water on the outside was deep water. Yeah.
Because of the conditions, it will be days before residents will be able to come in just to clean up. No one is even guessing when they'll be able to stay. While Thornton is drying out, water still gushes under I-5 at Barber Road, further eroding the bridge base. This water is now flooding farm-rich New Hope Trap, where ag losses will be heavy.
There isn't a crop out here you can make money with. You know, it's all you're trying to do is survive. All you're trying to do is break even every year. Now something like this, oh yeah, a lot of these guys are out of business.
At the break site, dredges are now working around the clock to stop the flow of water. Rocks are being trucked into Thornton and transported to the break site by train. Some residents here have complained that it's taking too long to plug the break, considering the Linda levee was patched in just a couple of days.
We had a lot more complicated situation. It was easier access to the levee up in Linda, and they were able to get trucks up on the levee. We have a different situation, and the access is very difficult, and they've had to actually dig a channel for a dredge to be moved up in there. So it's taken them a lot longer to actually get working on our situation.
As waters recede, not all that surfaces is discouraging. Thornton's new library was saved, thanks to the CCC. And when Fido returns, he'll find that his home is floated to a new location. It's a doggy dream house complete with hydrant. Well, while Fido might be happy, it's not true for a lot of the people who live there in Thornton. Damage estimates have been updated this afternoon. They're now running near $20 million. And one other thing, Dick and Jennifer, we learned also this afternoon that starting at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, some of the residents there will be allowed to go back in just for the daytime only. They're to meet at the command center at I-5 and Highway 12, and they'll be shuttled into the area by the Sheriff's Department.
So they'll be closely watched as they go in and protected somewhat from water there?
There'll be a head count in the morning and a head count in the afternoon to make sure everybody that went in also left. They don't want to have any looting there. And so far, they've had pretty good fortune. Apparently, there haven't been any examples of people trying to rip off the flood victims.
And how long do they figure, again, that kind of a situation will last before they can go back on a permanent basis?
Well, they're saying now it probably won't be until at least the end of the week before they get that whole patch. So they're talking about, in fact, somebody said today that it's probably going to be at least a couple of more weeks that the state of emergency exists here in San Joaquin County. So it's not going to be real soon, that's for sure.
The doghouse, the perfect doghouse, was a classic.
It really was.
I really loved that.
Thank you, Dan.